All right, there were a couple of questions that I saw online about lighting in a Star Trek The Next Generation, color temperature, LED OCD boards. And since I have the machine and I have all those parts, I'm going to go ahead and talk about those real quick. So, this machine is fully LED'd. These are filled with two Comet SMD LEDs. Excuse me, two SMD LEDs from Comet with frosted tips. Okay, the GI that's in here, the general illumination on top, is all what do you call it? Natural white for the color. It's like a harsher white, like a fluorescent white light. Okay, now the difference between that and something like sunlight is sunlight bulbs are going to give off a slightly different color temperature. Okay, the sunlight is going to appear a little bit more yellowish than this natural white. I prefer natural white in star-based games, like space-based stuff, and sunlight in pretty much everything else. I don't like warm light white. That's just me. Now, on this machine itself, these aren't like non-ghosting bulbs or anything like that. You don't need non-ghosting bulbs on anything except the only thing that you'll have ghosting issues with is going to be these shield insert lights here. And only in multi-ball mode. In multi-ball mode, when your shields get hit and it says, shields down, restore, whatever, these dim. Okay, when these dim as LEDs, it doesn't work right, and there can be this weird strobing effect that you don't want. Now, as far as what the heck non-ghosting LEDs are and when you would need them, over here, you see this insert on the left? This has got ghosting issues. So, that's supposed to be flashing right now. But you can see when the controlled light is coming on and off that it's like there's like full brightness and then part brightness there. So what will happen is there will be just a little bit of stray voltage. And since the LEDs are so much more efficient than regular incandescent bulbs, you'll end up with the light being on just a little bit when it's not supposed to. And that happens on this Black Knight here. I need to switch this out when I'm in normal game mode, and this magnet save when lit light will stay on when it's not supposed to. The easiest way to fix that is to just replace that with incandescent. Now, in this whole machine, I left the flashers as incandescent. The first machine that I ever got, I switched to 8 SMD tower LEDs. It was a Jurassic Park, the Data East one. And every time the flashers went off, it was like I was ready to have a seizure. It was so bright. In this machine, the bulbs, all the GI, like I said, the general illumination is natural white. In this particular one, I have matched the inserts to the color behind it. You don't have to do that. It looks a little nicer, but it's a lot more effort. What you don't want to do is color match some and not the others, because then it'll start to look goofy. Now, when I said 8 bulbs, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 that are still incandescent in here. And I forgot to mention, the 2 that are in these tower domes are also just regular incandescent instead of LEDs. I switched these over to LEDs, and in my particular machine, when it went into ball search mode, there's a coil in here, and it gets hot enough in mine that it'll melt the LED, but not an incandescent bulb. So once again, these 2 are just still regular incandescents, but who cares? And these 6 are incandescent. If you see any flickering effect or anything like that, that's going to be just an artifact of the camera. Now up here, there are these little ring insert things. These are fairly easy to put in. They're like, I want to say like $4 or $5 from Comet. On these though, you need to hot glue the actual ring itself to the top of the pop bumper, or else it'll sort of wiggle around in there and cause all sorts of problems. Now, when you actually LED a machine like this, if you need to replace the rubbers at the same time, because you're going to have everything taken apart anyways. You'll save yourself a ton of time if you do those together. I'm going to show you a couple of quick tips under, and I'm going to go ahead and fix that bulb. So I'm going to quickly set this camera off to the side. Hope my stand works. All right. So, pull out. There are some different little extra like matrix lighting kits you can get from Comet. So what a lot of people will do is they'll put a extra like 6-inch or 3-inch light strip down here in the trough. I used to have one hooked up top as well for a little bit of extra light, but that was controversial to say the least. Make sure I don't dump all the balls at once. All right. All right, I guess I have a few more incandescents under here, but not very many. So if you look under here, you'll see all sorts of different little LEDs of different shapes. Like I said, I recommend just getting all the same ones if it's the first one that you've ever done. Some of these are shaped a little bit differently to make it so that the light is a little bit more directly underneath the insert. The pro tip, key tip on these here, when you plug these in, when I say these, I mean the wedge-shaped ones like this. In these particular spots, you need to use an extra finger in here and make sure that it doesn't get pushed. Is that bulb good? And make sure that this little mounted piece right here doesn't get pushed out, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this back in here for a second. What you don't want to do is you don't want to shove it up there with one hand. You want to sort of grab the black thing that it plugs into with the other finger and plug it in, which is kind of a pain, but since I'm here, I'm going to go ahead and fix that one. And it looks like I got to do a little bit more work to fix that light. I'm not sure exactly what's wrong there. But the other thing I wanted to show you under here is, let me give you an example. All right, so you don't necessarily have to tear this whole thing apart to get to some of these hard to reach bulbs, okay? So if you wanted to get at these bulbs under here and you're thinking, oh, I got to take the ramp off and all this other stuff, you don't have to. You can always turn the machine off if you've never done it before, but just go ahead and get a hex screwdriver and unscrew it here and then screw it back in. So here, let me show you what I'm talking about. Give me just a second. You can change the bulb. Instead of taking the plastic off on top, just do this, pull it out, and then you have access to the bulb that way. And that can save a whole lot of time if you're worried about getting something like under the ramps in a Star Trek The Next Generation. Let me put this back. Now, as far as the color temperature that I was talking about earlier, I actually have some of those bulbs, so let's take a look. And after you do that, it's going to try and launch them all back into the right spot. All right, so looks like I removed part of this plastic earlier, and it fell down somewhere over there, so I'll have to grab it. But I can grab this wedge light right here, okay? So this particular one is a 2 SMD natural white with the frosted bulb, okay? All the lighting in there is 2 SMD natural white with the frosted bulb. This one is 2 SMD sunlight, okay? So if I plug that in here, okay, it's going to look just a little bit different. So you see how that one's got just a slight yellow glow as opposed to just the pure white on the other ones? Some people like that look. I personally prefer Here's my plastic cover. Let me go ahead and put the plastic cover on it. I personally prefer the look of, I'll just rest that there. So you can see the light coming off of that side versus the light coming off of this side is just slightly different. I prefer the 2SMD natural white lights on space-based ones, but most people prefer sunlight. If you're asking what you should get the sunlight one. Don't get warm light, get sunlight. Warm light is more the color of an old incandescent bulb, okay? Under the big thing you want to remember, though, is under no circumstances do you want to mix the some natural white into sunlight. But that's probably way more information than anybody would ever want to know about LED lights. Just a couple of tips for somebody that I know that's getting ready to order these things and do a bunch of work. Do your rubbers at the same time.